This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. This is your spoiler-free place for Star Wars community and conversation. I'm your host, Dan Zer, thrilled to be talking Star Wars with each and every one of you. You can support Coffee with Kenobi by following the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Help spread the word by tweeting that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. A special thanks to Coffee with Kenobi's travel partner, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. For a no-cost, no-obligation quote, be sure to go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zer sent you. On today's show, Lou Mongello of WDW Radio and Becky Mahnken of MEI and Mouse Fan Travel join me to share our top 5 Galactic Starcruiser tips so that you can get the most out of your vacation should you decide to become a member of the guest list of the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser, the Halcyon. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
Joining us today for a cup of coffee to talk about some tips to help you maximize your time at the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser are 2 returning guests. First, let's bring in, you may know him as the Disney Podfather. I know him as a friend and one heck of a squirrely guy, Mr. Lou Mongello.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me back.
Of course, Lou is well known for the WDW radio show. I was fortunate enough to be on his live show last week, along with my other co-host for this evening, Becky Mahnken of MEI and Mouse Fan Travel.
Hey, Dan, it's so great to be back on again.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this. I am actually, I think I'm halfway through your 9-hour show about the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. Really enjoying hearing it and hearing all of your family give their input on everything. Just real quick, if you were to give a letter grade, because of course I am a teacher in my day job, letter grade for the Starcruiser and just overall thoughts on the experience itself. Lou, what would you say?
First of all, it was quote unquote only 2 hours, which having been to the experience, could have been much longer. What would be my grade for the Starcruiser as a whole?
Yes.
I unapologetically give it an A, because it did what for me it needed to do, which was exceed my expectations.
I agree. And I was going on by Star Wars Galactic Cruiser time. So 2 hours is really more like 9 on the ship. Becky, what about you?
I'm kind of in the same Starcruiser. An A from me, from my personal experience. It did what I needed it to do, which was to not be the Star Wars hotel, but to be the immersive experience, interactive experience that I was hoping it to be, and that it would show the value.
I would also give it an A because it was just amazing. It did exceed expectations, which were reservedly high. I've learned since the Phantom Menace that you can have high expectations for Star Wars, but you got to kind of temper them because you never know what you're going to expect. And when I first heard that it was going to be immersive, I thought, well, it kind of would be cool to walk around and have it be a Star Wars hotel. But I feel like that would be an injustice to the entire sort of concept of what Star Wars and Disney, that marriage is. It deserves more. Lucasfilm and Disney are always at the foremost of advanced storytelling and techniques to help you really experience these fictional worlds in a way that you never thought possible. And I think that's why we need to give tips, top 5 tips for how we think you might use these ideas to get even more out of your amazing experience. Because Lou, I think you'd agree, it can be overwhelming because there's a lot to do, but I feel like the same thing could be said for any Disney vacation.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like going to Walt Disney World, it is unlike literally any other place on the planet. Like nowhere else do you need to go. All right, kids, we need to sit down 6 months in advance, decide where we're going to go, what we're going to eat. We can order it right now if we really want to. So there is a lot of, planning in advance. And even when you get there, there's a lot of things you need to consider along the way.
I agree. Becky, would you agree with that? Not only that, but anytime you go to a theme park, there are going to be things you're going to miss, but that's why you have to kind of do your homework beforehand so that hey, this is the things that it's okay if I see this, but these are things that I just can't miss.
Well, yeah. When you go to a theme park, you pretty much have to figure out, especially something like Walt Disney World, where you can go for 7 days and you're not going to experience everything that it has to offer. You could go for 2 weeks and still not experience everything, which is why you have to go back. And this experience that we had was 2 nights, 3 days. And I need to go back because I didn't experience everything I'd like to experience. So I think it does kind of go hand in hand. And having a few tips to get ready for that adventure and that journey is probably a great thing. However, what I would say is don't watch any of the videos on YouTube to try to do this, because you need to experience it for the first time with your own eyes.
I agree. I purposely, there's plenty of things I still have video of that I did not post anywhere because I don't want to be the person that ruins some of the amazing surprises that are there. So we won't spoil things for you, everybody. We're just going to give you some things to help the Force lead you in certain directions, and you may choose which path you want to take. So Lou, let's start with you. What is your number 5?
So, I'm starting off with the one which is the giant, I think the bantha in the room. And I think you can't, for me, Dan, you can't get to any of the other tips or questions without addressing the big one. And the consistent question, every single headline, clickbaity or otherwise, has the words worth it in there. And that is the decision that you need to make for yourself. We spent a lot of time on our recap show about this, talking about the quote unquote worth it, because it is so incredibly subjective. My goal with the videos, live video, again, non-spoilery, and the review was to help you make, an informed decision. We also took the price tag, which is admittedly high, and there is a bit of sticker shock, but we sort of reversed engineered it to sort of break down what it is that you actually get for it and show, again, if it makes sense for you, that there's actually value in it. And there's questions you have to ask for yourself, like, where do I sit in Star Wars fandom? Do I have this money to spend? And without sort of going through all of the different, I think, questions you need to ask yourself, I think when we talk about something being worth it for you, you have to determine where that value comes from, right? For me, it was watching my family and watching Beci smile and laugh and do all these things. It was the tears that I had in my eyes being that 1977 Star Wars fan at 9 years old, living something that I only imagined as a kid. And I'll only say this: if something makes you happy, like, it doesn't need to make sense to anybody else. Like, if it makes you happy, then that's the answer to whether or not something's worth it.
When I work with my students, one of the main things that I hope is that they learn from just me and who I am and how I am is be unabashedly yourself. And if you like something, embrace it and don't apologize for it. And I mean, the sticker shock thing is an important thing to talk about. We talked about a lot on Coffee with Kenobi. You certainly addressed it on WDW radio. And what I've been saying is, no, is it worth it to get into debt for it? But no vacation is worth getting into debt for. You plan for it, you prepare for it, and you go into it knowing, to me, like, it's just like any other big thing. Hawaii, Europe, anywhere you want to go that's far away from where you are for staying for a significant amount of time. If you save for it and you plan for it, then it's going to be worth it because you worked for it and you got your just desserts. To me, it's just that simple. But I would never listen to one person anywhere in the world, except for maybe my wife, to tell me if something is worth it or not, right? No one can make that decision for you. But, for all of us, we're going to say yes because we love it. We think it's great. And, this is why we're giving you these tips. So if you do decide that you want to do this, here's some things that can help you along the way.
Right. And I would agree that it's not for everybody. Let's just put it right out there. This is not going to be an experience that everybody needs to do or has to spend money on. Mm-mm. We all make decisions on our vacation based on what's of value to us personally. So you can even take a Walt Disney World vacation or a cruise vacation. You might be the person that when you choose your resort, all you do is sleep and shower there. So you don't need anything that's extra expensive because your choices are to spend your money elsewhere on that vacation. So it's the same thing with this. This is a unique experience that is going to appeal to many people. And it's up to you if you decide that it's worth saving the money for and going to experience this type of adventure.
Right. It's collaborative for all ages in a way that I've never seen. I've been on lots of vacations with my family, and it's just so unique and just I believe, Lou, when I asked you for your one word, you said over delivered. And I love that description so much because it does exceed those expectations that we have in very, very pronounced ways. But I will say, of course, because of the show and who I am, a big reason I enjoyed it was because it was set in Star Wars. Everything was exactly the same, played out exactly the same, but the background was like DC Comics or Harry Potter or something. Would I like it? Sure, I would have enjoyed it. But would I be as willing to plunk the money out for it? Maybe not. I mean, the Star Wars part is a big part for me. And I'm assuming if you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi, that is where you are at as well. So, Becky, why don't you, Lou, were you going to add to that? No? Okay. So, Becky, go ahead and give us your number 5. And by the way, we may have overlap, but we're all going to explain it differently. So I'm okay with the overlap.
Susan, as I'm looking at it going, I could say my 5, but I don't want anybody to take my number 1. So
it's okay if we take it because we'll explain it differently.
Okay, good. I think that along the same lines of what Lou said in a way is that you need to have the right expectation of this before you actually engage in it, because don't plan on this being a relaxing vacation. This is not where you're going to go to a Star Wars theme hotel and bask in the glory of sitting and reading your book and going to the space spa, because that's not what this is at all. So you really have to kind of go into it understanding that this is an active experience. You are not going to just be sitting around if you're doing it correctly. In my mind, it's everything from and many of us have said this over and over again. It's not just a vacation. It's a video game and a cruise experience and a resort stay and a dinner mystery theater and a Broadway show and an escape room, all wrapped into one. And while you can engage as much or participate as much or as little as you want to, be prepared with the right expectation that you are going to jump all in and really experience the journey.
Hear, hear. Well, an important part of experiencing that journey is fuel. You need fuel in your body, which is why my number 5 is food. Recently, I had a show where we gave our top 5 favorite foods on the Galactic Starcruiser. The food is a great part of the experience. I believe the chef there used to be the head chef at the California Grill, if my research is correct. And everything is beautifully prepared. There are so many wonderful food and drink options for you. Regrettably, I didn't find out about the hot chocolate until I was on your live show, Lou, and Becky told me about how good the hot chocolate is. In fact, my wife almost fell out of the car when I told her, because we love hot chocolate in this Zare household. So there's so many options, and that is my suggestion. Not to eat, of course you don't eat, but because it's a cruise type thing, and your food is part of, you being as a member of the Halcyon's guest list, order everything. Order everything. You can order everything and try it. See what you think. Get seconds. You like that cheese sauce for the noodle cheese, the tip you have noodle cheese? You can get a cup of the side cheese sauce and pour over anything you want. Pour it on your head.
So good.
It's so good. So you might as well, you're paying for it. You might as well live it up. It's a great part of the whole experience.
I had 3 words as my number 1: eat it all. And I mean that sort of half jokingly, because you're right. It is like a cruise experience where all of your food is included. And Dan, honestly, the food was the biggest surprise for me. Was not just how plentiful it was, but how good it was. And I will admit that, again, it wasn't hesitation, but my curiosity going in was, oh, please, sweet baby Jesus, please don't let this be like multicolored space food like they did in Tomorrowland back in the late 70s, early 80s. I didn't expect it to be, based on what we saw in Galaxy's Edge, but I didn't expect it to be that good. and the quality, the quantity, the presentation was beautiful. I love how they do the breakfast and lunch sort of bento box style buffet. But I was the other day trying to figure out like how many different items there were. And as I was getting into like the 70s, I'm like, there's a lot. And there's a lot more than I thought in a lot of different locations. So I agree with you 1,000%.
Excellent. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. The drinks are great too. And like all of these drinks you can get anywhere on Disney property. There's much more like flavoring and sweets added to it than there is alcohol itself. So nobody's getting tanked on the Starcruiser, unless you're rich, I would say.
I also had eat everything on my list. I won't tell you where it was on the list, but
Yeah.
eat everything. And that's true. When the presentation is so well done, and the portion sizes on that little bento box thing for breakfast and lunch
Yes.
are so well executed. And it's easy to go, hey, I want that, and I want that, and I want that. Instead of having a big plate that you just pile a bunch of stuff on, you get a good portion size to allow you to eat everything. Or if you're Lou, you get 3 or 4, trays and stack them, and then you get to eat everything.
Then you must be very buff because those trays are heavy.
They really are.
They are.
But I truly enjoyed how they executed dining from breakfast and lunch, and also to the dinner experience. And that was elevated to a level above my expectations that I had for being on the Starcruiser. How everything was well themed without being overboard, and the quality of the food was beyond my expectations as well.
Well, you mentioned the dinner theater. We had those Gaia songs in our head for weeks until we saw Turning Red. Now I've got Ford Town in my head all the time, but that's the show for another time. Lou, so what is your number 4?
So again, in no particular order, because I think this is actually incredibly important, is allow yourself to be immersed. And Becky alluded to the level of participation is obviously very subjective, up to you, whether it be based on your fandom, your energy level. And yes, you should carb load before this trip because you're going to need it. But I think if you not just allow yourself to participate, but allow yourself to be a kid again, to not worry or about being embarrassed, like do as much as you want and can, and then do a little bit more. Because while it might seem funny or weird or goofy or taking you out of your comfort zone, it pays such incredible dividends while you're doing it. And I think for the memories you take away.
Hear, hear. Becky, what is your number 4?
I don't quite know how to state this as a tip, but I'm going to try anyway. Don't get too hung up on your choice of stateroom. I think a lot of people are looking at the options that are available, and there are 3 options. You have a standard cabin, which is very comfortable. It has the 2 bunk beds that we see everywhere, and those bunk beds can accommodate an adult comfortably, from what I understand, and what watching Lou jump into them and just, looking like he was very comfortable. And I think he looked at his son and said, dibs on the bunk bed. So the second one, that sleeps up to 4 or 5. The Galaxy class suite sleeps 4 passengers, which is a little bit more expensive. And by little, I mean, it can be very much more expensive. And then they have the Grand Captain suite, which sleeps 8 passengers. So, a lot of people tend to go, well, it's got to be better if it's bigger. I think in this situation, you really don't need to spend the additional money above a standard cabin unless you've got a large family that you all want to be together. But in all honesty, if you're doing it and engaging the way that Lou was just speaking about, you're not going to spend a lot of time in that cabin. It is very cool to be immersed in it and to look at all the details, all the way down to the TV remote was well themed. So I think that one of the tips is just, get your cabin. If you have up to 4 people, the standard cabin is going to be just fine for you. And an added tip onto it, talk to the droid. Spend a lot of time pushing that button. There's a communications panel in each of the cabins, and the sorry, you guys are gonna have to tell me the droid's name because I don't remember it. Fill it in.
It is
DS09.
Yes.
Thank you. So she talks to you. She will sing you a lullaby. She will tell you a bedtime story. She will comment on your day. It's a lot of fun. So is encompassing the cabin piece. Just make sure to spend some time chatting with her.
Definitely that. Yeah, that and it does depend on what time of day and where the ship is in space. What DS9 will tell you as well. My number 4. A lot of yours, some years that you both have mentioned. I'm going to wait until I get to mine to comment on those. But my number 4 is brush up on your math skills, especially negative numbers, because sabacc is the way you want to talk about fun and Star Wars. Honestly, I've been saying this for weeks, but because of my son Mason, we played sabacc for probably 8 hours the entire time.
Wow.
We were in that sublight lounge constantly. And you would think Becky was with me at the bar. Oh, sorry, that was a Lou joke. But no, that wasn't the case. We were just playing sabacc all the time, which is a simplified version of the one that you can get in Galaxy's Edge, because it's not really about all the different face cards. It's more like, hey, you got to hit the suit and you got to get the number. And math is not my strong suit, but if you're playing at the holo table, it does a lot of that math for you, which is fantastic. I would also highly suggest that you participate in a sabacc tournament. We did that. We made sure that our family were at different tables so that if we won, we could get on in advance and play against each other and kind of share our experiences. And then the winners of the early afternoon and late afternoon games get to play at the main table in the sublight lounge for the final one. That first night that we were there on the cruise, Ashley and David Eckstein were there. So my family and I played with Ashley and played sabacc. So I heard her saying things like, well, I've got a good feeling about this. And that was pretty exciting because there's Ahsoka Tano. I'm playing sabacc with her. By the way, Deanna won. I just wanted to say that. But it's fun. And that's why I bring that up, because when you're playing sabacc, you're going to meet people from all over the ship that you probably don't even know, or maybe friends you brought along the way, or family as well. And that's a great way to get to know people. Plus, SK620 came in there a couple of times while we were playing sabacc, and that was a good chance to scan him and get extra information for later on in your adventure as well. But that sabacc table, that is a ton of fun with a lot of great opportunities.
Nicholas
all right, Lou.
Playing sabacc. Yeah, and my son loved playing sabacc too.
It was great. Yeah, number 3 for you.
So next on my list is be curious. And what I mean by that is don't just necessarily wait for the action, the characters, the story to come to you. Follow guests, follow characters, explore the ship on your own. Yes, you will be given certain tasks and certain missions, and the more you do, I think the better the experience it is. But don't hesitate if you see something happening or if you see a character walking around. Again, even if it's a little bit out of your comfort zone, follow them. You never see where they're going. If you see a group of guests going somewhere, don't hesitate to go and participate. And chances are there's something happening you want to be there for anyway, but it really helps sort of create your own, levels and story elements of fun.
Was there a particular moment where you took this advice that, without spoiling, that you were really weren't expecting where your life would take you?
So there was a couple of times. I went exploring at one point and found a room I did not know existed. I was walking around another time and a character was walking by and I saw a bunch of people following. So I said, I'm just going to go see what's going on there. I also walked into a room where there was a secret meeting going on that I was pleasantly and wonderfully kicked out of, which I loved. So the more you do like that, I promise you it pays dividends.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Becky.
This one was totally on my list, so I'm just going to pile onto it on this point because this was so important. I'm a little bit of I hold up against the wall. I don't generally jump into the middle of people that I don't know and don't know what's going on, but I kind of got out of my comfort zone, jumped in, caught the eye of one of the characters, talked to him for a little bit, and all of a sudden, all I wanted to do was figure out what he was doing and why he was doing it. Was he a good guy? Was he a bad guy? And trying to figure it all out. And he learned my name. And later on, we were, I think it was the second day, but anyway, we were walking through the main atrium and figuring, oh, let's go and look at this room and see what's happening, or let's, not worry about it. All these people were piling in the elevator. And this one character says, Becky, come on. And that made me stop and go, oh, wait a minute. I guess I have to follow instructions. So I think I grabbed a bunch of us were piling in the elevator too. And I ended up in the middle of a storyline that I would never have experienced it had I not done that. So it's getting out of your comfort zone, talking to people, walking up to them and chatting with them, asking questions. And like Lou said, just you see a commotion happen over the side, go check it out.
Even the climate simulator has those motifs. Like we got a tip that we should go into the climate simulator at a certain time of day. And then those little stones that you pile on top of the rocks have even more meaning for you. So just be very aware of your surroundings for sure. Becky, are we on you for number? Are we on 4 or 3? You guys keep jumping around. I don't know what the heck's going on anymore.
I think we're on 3 at this point.
Okay.
Here's one that I didn't think that I would say, because I had it in my brain that I knew I wasn't going to do this because I wanted to spend more time on the ship. The tip is don't skip Batu. I think a lot of people are, I've been to Galaxy's Edge so many times. I've been there, done that. Why do I want to spend the time in the park? When in fact, that's how I felt. I was thinking, gee, that's going to be an entire day that I could still spend on the ship to, check out places and things. However, I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we went into Batu and did the missions and read through the communications that were happening there, because things are different. You do it differently. You experience Batu in a completely different way than you normally do when you just show up to Galaxy's Edge. So I would highly recommend, don't skip Batu. If you can, get Oga's reservation, which you can do when you actually make your reservations, because there are some things that might happen in there too. So get out of the ship for a little bit, go explore. You might find that it was well worth your time.
Oh, I agree. It's probably easier to get into Oga's if you're a Starcruiser guest than if you're not, to be honest. So it's kind of a bonus.
Yeah.
In many ways. My number 3, and does involve credits, but the real credits that you're going to bring with you in your wallet, or if you have Uncle Lou's credit card with you, either way. So my suggestion is to save a little bit of extra money for the merchandise. I'm a massive, massive fan of the merchandise. I think a lot of us listening are, but the things you can get on the Starcruiser are unique to the Starcruiser. And I like that, to be honest with you. I think it makes it more special. And also, you can only buy one of things. Like I wanted to buy 2 of the SK620 3 3/4 inch droid, but they wouldn't let me because I always buy one to open, one to keep on card. And I couldn't do that. But I was okay with that. It just gives me something to look forward to for the next time. I bought one, kept it on the card. It's a beautifully designed card. Everything there is so unique. The packaging is so great. There's a lot of great in-world stuff that is wonderful. And then when you get off the ship, there are a handful of things you can get that do feature Star Wars that are out of world, more like the traditional keychains. There's a really great water bottle with a diffuser in it. T-shirts, a couple. I wish there were hoodies, but at least when I was there weren't any hoodies. But who knows? That may change quite a bit depending on what Disney is doing. But there's so many great pieces of merchandise that are invaluable. If you are a collector or you just want to take a little bit of that extra fun of the Galactic Starcruiser at home with you, the merchandise is pretty special. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we will return with much more from Lou Mongello and Becky Mahnken as we give you our top 5 tips for enjoying the most for your Galactic Starcruiser experience. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
All right, we are back. We are giving our top 5 tips for the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. And Lou, I believe we are back to you for your number 2.
So Becky mentioned Batu. I know, Dan, you did as well. And the number 2 that I had on my list was to enjoy Batu in a new way. And what I mean by that is, as somebody who lives, not a very ship voyage away from Batu, I spent more time and enjoyed Batu than I ever have before, even since the park first opened. And what I really mean is use the data pad as it was designed to do, because we heard a little bit about this when Galaxy's Edge first opened, but without question, the choices that you make on the Halcyon and the things that you do or don't do absolutely impact what you can do, what you're asked to do, and even your results when you are on Batu and vice versa. And I was amazed, without spoiling anything, to hear different dialogue in an attraction that knew we were guests of the Halcyon. And I'm like internally clapping. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, finally, I've seen and felt the connection between the two destinations. Credits matter, choices matter, missions matter, interactions matter. We were able to do so many things collectively and then compartmentalize, like individually. And I also know that there were things, much like on the Starcruiser, that we didn't get to do. I'm like, oh, I would have loved to have been able to do this thing or participate in this mission, which, going back to Becky's point, has a quote unquote rewritability factor for the Starcruiser. But use your data pad. They give it to you so you're not distracted by social and emails and phone calls, and allow yourself to go all in.
Absolutely. It's a big part. That's a nice part about this. People that we were with from Lucasfilm were saying, we went on the ship during Valentine's Day and the Super Bowl, and we forgot about both of those things, because if you really let yourself, you can really just be taken away and forget about everything else but whatever your next mission is or whatever your next blue shrimp is going to taste like. All right, Becky, number 2 for you.
My number 2, especially for those who are listening, this is definitely going to be relevant. If you are so inclined, don't be afraid to dress up. There were a lot of people in character and in costume. There were a lot that weren't. So you can feel just as comfortable being on board in a t-shirt and jeans as you are dressed completely in Jedi robes or whatever your character happens to be. There were people that were at dinner dressed to the nines in gorgeous headdress and like a cocktail gown that was from outer space, and others who were, again, hanging out in jeans and a t-shirt. So if you feel like your Star Wars journey, you want to play a part or play a character, please do. It's completely welcome, just as long as you don't cover your face. They do go along the regular costume standards that you see at Disney World. But if you get on board and think, oh my gosh, I should have brought my costume, there are things in the gift shop that you're able to buy too. They do have robes and a tunic and other things that looked amazing. And I was that close to buying a couple of things, but they were so warm for me. It would be like I would cook in them. And all the running that we were doing up and down the stairs, trying to chase down missions and comms, that made me not do it this time, maybe on a return trip. But you can also buy the same or view the same things that they have available on shopdisney.com.
That's
and
right.
If you have a reservation, you can order it ahead of time.
Yep.
Yeah, you have, as long as you use the same email address used for the My Disney Experience account, you have 60 days before your voyage or 30 days after your voyage. Ignore that thing that's popping up. So yeah, you can definitely do that. My number 2 is actually the exact same as Becky's, and it's costumes. So surprisingly, I said to Deanna about halfway through the voyage, I said, hey, if there's one thing, now that you know what you know, what advice would you have given yourself before you went on this thing? And again, this is a person who is not a big Star Wars fan and is very much grounded in the real world, shall we say. And she said, I wish I would have dressed up. And I was like, really? And she said, yes, because it just looks like it's a lot more fun. It's like Halloween in the biggest cul-de-sac that's Star Wars themed that you can ever imagine, right? The whole time, because the cast members are always in character and you're with people who are very much buying in because they've bought a trip to Voyage on this thing with you. There are options. You can't wear a mask, as you said, but everything else you can be a part of. You got great Jedi robes from Galaxy's Edge, bring them. You've got some cosplay ideas that you thought about that you did, bring them. Or you can buy things on the ship itself. There is like a blue and gray tunic for people who are training others to be Jedi or practice with their Jedi sabers that I wanted to get, but they didn't have a size that worked really well for me. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're counting on that, it's possible not all the sizes you need will necessarily be there. But as Lou mentioned and Becky mentioned, 60 days before your voyage, you can order them on Shop Disney and they will get there, hopefully to your home before you actually leave for your adventure itself. But it's a big part of it. It's a ton of fun. I know I have like an X-Wing costume from the Target commercial days. I wish I would have brought that thing with me too. And I really underestimated how exciting it is to be a part of that, because a lot of the people there were very full on doing that. And they're also wearing those things when we went to Batuu together. And it just seemed to really add to their experience. So that's a big part of the whole play thing. And I think it's really cool. Ewok costumes are welcome.
I tried, but because it covers my face.
Oh, rats.
Yeah. The lightsaber taser I thought was a little much. They could have just asked me to take it off, but it's fine.
Agreed. Well, all right. Well, Lou, we're back to you for number one. I feel like you may have already said your number one, but maybe there's something else you want to add to it.
So obviously there was a lot of overlap, and I love the fact that we're all very much on the same page and wavelength about our tips and experiences. But I think the last thing that I would add, not necessarily just as the most important, but don't worry about your level of fandom. And what I mean by that is you don't have to be a quote unquote hardcore Star Wars nerd knowing and having even watched everything. And as a matter of fact, I don't think there's a lot that you quote unquote need to have watched in order to enjoy it, because the characters are new, the story is new. And I know for some people, before they stepped foot on board, they thought it would be a negative. Like, I wanted to be surrounded by these characters I'm familiar with. I love the fact that it wasn't, because you were not trying to follow a certain path or story or have any preconception of these characters. So you could have seen a couple of movies or be the, biggest Star Wars fan in the world or somewhere in between, and you can still absolutely enjoy this. And if your husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father is the big fan and you're not, I promise you can still do it as well. I have an 18-year-old daughter who is admittedly not a big Star Wars fan. 2 minutes in, she was all in, and she may have had the best time of anybody.
Oh, wow. I love that. That is so cool. Becky, did you anything you want to add to that?
Oh, to that piece?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. There are different family members that may not be so into it, and there are some that are going to be, I'm going to definitely go. I can see this experience being a gang of friends going together who are big Star Wars fans, but I can see the family going along where maybe dads and son are the Star Wars fans and mom and daughter may not be. It doesn't matter. They don't have to have watched the movies, because it's things that you're doing together. It's a story that you're living together, and it's a story that you are designing and creating on your own together. So I think that it's a great family experience, regardless of your level of fandom.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's plenty of stuff there that you don't need to know anything about. In fact, Deanna said to me when I told her about the trip we were going to take, she said, "Oh, geez, is a stormtrooper going to knock on my room in the middle of the night and ask me trivia questions?" I said, no, that's not going to happen. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't matter if you know anything about Star Wars. You just have to be ready to play it. So, Becky, what's your number one tip?
My number one, like I said, I love the way that this is kind of all coming together. I would say don't miss any of the public events. Make sure that on the schedule they'll have things like the captain's speech or the muster drill or things that might sound a little mundane or something you don't need to be a part of. But I highly encourage you, please, please, please make sure you go to all the public events, because it's definitely relevant to your experience. And again, if called upon to help, do it. Just jump in and do it. Follow along, have fun, be a kid, allow yourself to be a 9-year-old again, because that is going to enhance the experience altogether. It is easy for someone to just go, yeah, I'm going to space. But if you allow seriously, I saw people do it. It's like, yeah, I'm in space. But if you allow yourself to really believe what you're doing and to immerse yourself in the story that's unfolding around you and let yourself become part of that story, you're going to have the best time. And it's going to bring that value back. And you're going to say, yeah, that was worth every penny that I spent.
Absolutely. That ties in beautifully to my number one. It is similar to what you both said. When we got off of our bus to get onto the Galactic Starcruiser, the first thing they said to us when they gave us our magic bands is, get ready to play, get ready to have some fun. And that's probably the best advice that I could give as well. Whether you're extroverted or introverted, the way the organic storytelling is created for you, the environment is there for you. You can't help but feel a part of the experience. Becky is someone that, as she said, is a bit more introverted. My wife's the same way. I'm the opposite. Like, I want to be the center of the thing, but it didn't matter. Once you're on board, everybody's kind of in the same experience. It's a little bit unknown, a little bit exciting. And there are so many people there that want you to have fun, and they're going to help you get the most out of it. And it's great. You just have to be willing to suspend your disbelief and have fun. And if a lot of people that you know have gone on this thing and they can do it, you can do it too. It's well worth it, because this truly is unlike anything that you can experience anywhere in the world, in my opinion.
And that's not hyperbole, Dan. Like that's
No.
a real thing. Like, there is really nothing else like this.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. It's so unique, and just, I don't know. I marvel at how they made this come together, and I would love to have been a part of those meetings. I'm sure they were angst-ridden. Well, what can we try this? Can we try that? Imagine stuff that fell on the cutting room floor that didn't make it, that we might see in sort of future iterations of this, if they do in fact modify it at some point. I hope they don't, because the playability, as we said, is so very high. When I got off the ship, someone said to me, "Hey, do you know that X, Y, and Z has happened?" And I said, "What?" And they said, "Do you feel cheated because you didn't get to experience that?" And I said, "I honestly don't, because I realize that when I do this again, and I am going to do it again, that I have that to look forward to. Plus, who knows what else is out there?" It's just amazing. It really is.
I'm really glad that they didn't just. They could have done this the easy way and built a hotel and called it the Star Wars Hotel, and then had Star Wars themed everywhere and just gone that direction, and they would have made a huge profit from it. I'm really glad they went this direction. And while, the long term of it is in question, because that's probably one of the biggest thing. Will people return? Will the story change? It does have a lot of potential to have different Star Wars adventures if they change the story going forward. That's what I'm excited to see. But it truly is, and I've been saying this all along from the moment I heard about it, they're doing this in such a way that it's a disruptor in the travel industry. And I would love to see this type of experience be transformed into other IP. I could see a Marvel experience, and I could have cocktails with Thor. It'd be awesome. But it is really exciting to see how they took this and how it's working out.
Indeed. You said Thor and working out, and you had this sort of a blush about yourself.
Well, it is Thor. What can we say?
Well, there you go. There you go. So, Becky, any last minute things, roundable mentions that you want to say as we get ready to sign off?
Yeah, a couple of ones that I want to make sure that people know. We didn't touch on the captain's table. A lot of people were thinking that, oh my gosh, if I can't get the captain's table, I can't do that date. It is very limited. It's I think it's 12 people, 12 or 14 at the table for an extra $30 a person. And it is a wonderful experience. It's fun. You do get 2 extra courses on one of the meals, or the meal that you're sitting there for. You do have some interaction with some characters, but the captain doesn't sit at the table the entire time. Please know that. It's an expectation I want to make sure people understand. But if you have the perfect date for this experience and the captain's table's not available, it's not going to be a big deal, in my opinion.
I agree. Because you get a little bit extra food. You get a pour of red, a pour of white, and a pour of champagne as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Lou, any others?
Your choice.
No, I don't think so. I think we really covered a lot in terms of your expectations, your levels of fandom, what you want to get out of it, and making sure that you also, if it was me, I would do a space and sea or a space and land package because you're going to need a day to recover.
Mhm.
You are exhausted in the most wonderful, wonderful way.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. But you get rested up for the experience and you make sure you get some downtime when you get off the ship and you're able to nap away with those amazing, amazing memories. And speaking of memories, as many of you know, listening in the summer of 2023, we are hoping with Coffee with Kenobi and MEI and Mouse Fan Travel to head back to the Halcyon together. And I know it's quite a bit before dates are even open. So, I mean, do you even know, Becky, how far in advance Disney is opening up these dates?
Well, they just opened up October to December of this year. So we're probably a good 6 months or more out before we'll even be talking about 2023 at this point. So just hang on and hopefully we'll have more information as soon as we can.
That's right. Stay tuned. And as they say, stay on target, start saving your money after celebration so you can make that happen. Hopefully join us in the summer of 2023. Well, Lou and Becky, it's always great to talk with the both of you. You actually behave yourselves a lot better than I expected. So there is progress. I see the group therapy is working very, very good. Lou, please let everybody know where they can find you and WDW Radio.
So you can find everything I do on the Disney side of things at www.radio.com, and you can find the podcast wherever you get your podcast. And you can find me. I am at Lou Mongello on all social.
And Becky, what about you and MEI and Mouse Fan Travel?
You can find us at www.mei-travel.com, and I'm Becky Mahnken on all the socials, and sometimes I even show up on WDW Radio now and then.
Not if
When
you
he
keep on
allows me.
saying www, you're not. But
See,
That's
now,
all,
now
folks.
it starts. There we go.
That's right. We almost made it. We almost made
sorry.
it.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is... yes.
My goodness, aren't those two so much fun? A big thank you to Lou Mongello and Becky Mahnken for joining me to give you our top 5 tips for enjoying the Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser. Be sure to go to MEI and Mouse Fan Travel for all of your travel needs at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel for your no-cost, no-obligation quote. They can help you plan your magic vacation, whether it's on the Galactic Starcruiser, Galaxy's Edge, any of the theme parks, not only Disney, but Universal as well, the cruise lines, Star Wars Celebration, or anywhere that you want to go to enjoy a vacation. It does not have to be Disney related. And when you do so, be sure to let them know that Dan's there and Coffee with Kenobi sent you. You'll enjoy an amazing vacation and support me and Coffee with Kenobi in the process. CWK Live on Monday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, where we are rewatching Star Wars Rebels. Next week, we're going to look at Spark of Rebellion Part 2, the second episode in Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. Whether you haven't seen it in a long time or it's your first time, go ahead and watch the show and keep track of your top 5 and share with me live on Monday night. And you can not only hear yourself on the Star Wars Coffee with Kenobi podcast feed, but on our YouTube channel and Instagram as well. The CWK Cafe group is www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community. It's a it's a family-friendly, spoiler-free, and drama-free place for your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions. That's www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community, our CWK Cafe Facebook group. The CWK Alliance is where you can go and support me and Coffee with Kenobi, and also get access to CWK Prover, a weekly audio and video exclusive podcast not heard anywhere else. That is at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/support. 10% of your monthly contributions will go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital. You're also able to contribute and support me and the travel and the things I do to bring you the show each and every week. www.coffeewithkenobi.com is the website for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. You can email me, danz at coffeewithkenobi.com. Connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR, on Instagram at danzercwk, and on LinkedIn. Coffee with Kenobi is all over social media: Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok. Give the show a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, or subscribe to Coffee with Kenobi's YouTube channel. Please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. if you like the Coffee with Kenobi logo or you want to find some other Star Wars t-shirts, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/shop. danzmedia.com is where you can go if you are starting a podcast or a blog or already have one existing. You want to expand your brand, reach out to me at danzmedia.com and I can help you take that first step into a larger world. I'm also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. Enjoy the rest of your week and weekend, everybody. Be sure to watch I'm used to that from The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, but be sure to watch Star Wars Rebels, the second episode of Season 1 Spark of Rebellion Part 2, and then get your top 5 ready to join me on Monday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you again for all that you do to support me and contribute to this amazing Star Wars community. And remember, this is the podcast you're looking for. See you next time, friends.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.